Thank God you're there looking in the background. Yes, it's back on.
I have to repeat my question.
No, I heard it.
The board didn't notice, I think it is.
Sanjay, I saw you had a question, Sanjay.
Yeah. In the exam for 2020, imagine if they bring a statistical report on coronavirus. Like the rates of how much it went up and down from the months.
Not up and down. Not up and down.
Oh, not up and down. Somebody please tell Sanjay what it is.
Oh God,
Increase or
there's
And Sanjay is not up and down. What is this?
increase and decrease and fluctuate.
Yes, increase and decrease and fluctuate. I have the January paper in my email. I think it was a notice that they brought.
It was a notice.
There was a notice that they brought.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me find the question for you all. It was a notice. It was actually a really easy question.
Miss, do you have access to the paper tree by chance?
Yeah, I have some paper trees. Yes, Hema, you'll get the paper trees and the rich paper trees. I'm not gonna for myself. I'm gonna give you all it.
Okay.
The January 2020 paper, they were saying that you are the outgoing president of your school students'
Yes, Andre.
council. Elections for a new executive is scheduled for Friday, 25th of June, 2020 at 10 a.m. at your school's auditorium. The following positions on the executive will be available. And they have president, vice president, treasurer, secretary, public relations officer. Students need to be informed that the president of the Students' Council must be a fifth form student. Further, students must vote for a candidate for every position available. Write a notice that will be placed on the school's notice board. And in the end, they closed off by saying that make sure to include all the relevant details in the notice so that students will be fully informed of the elections. So the questions are very detailed. They give you sufficient information, but they also give you information that is not too in-depth, where there's room for you to include additional and relevant information. Right, Denzel, so I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, Miss, thanks.
You're welcome. Anybody else has any questions?
Yeah, Miss, when we get to the paper ones, the past papers.
Jaylan, I sent it in the group for you. Did you
Oh,
see
I
it?
didn't see it, sorry.
I sent the paper one, the compilation with the 2010 to 2017. Did you see that?
Miss Assi mentioned that I think 2019 missing a page.
Yeah. The 2019 paper missing a page. That was how I got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 2019 was missing one page. But Jaylan, I sent it in the group. I don't know if you didn't open it to see. But all the past papers I sent in the group last week, they were paper ones.
Oh, no, I thought you said you was going to Gmail it to us. That's why I didn't pay attention.
Oh, no, I didn't end up emailing it because everybody were asking for it to be sent in the group, so I just ended up sending it in the group. If you want me to email it to you, you can let me know.
No, that's fine.
Okay. So anybody have any, so far we covered the notice, we covered the memorandum, the email, and the minutes. Do you all have any questions regarding these last 4 topics in the expository writing?
Miss, I good. I understand.
Alicia, I'm not hearing you. Are you good too?
Yes, Miss.
Okay. So, well, the homework that, anybody have any questions before I move on? Let's see if anybody raise their hands. Sanjay, you had a question?
No, my hand was up before. I forgot to take it down.
Oh, okay. Anybody else has any questions regarding these last 4 sections of section B, the expository writing? So I know your homework. We all had 2 reports to write for me for homework. You had the newspaper report and the accident or incident report. So I told, as I said earlier on, I want everyone to type up their reports, both reports, on a Microsoft Word document and email it to me either tonight or tomorrow for the latest. So please, the homework that was due today, everybody type it up on a Microsoft Word document. Don't send it to me on WhatsApp. Please send it to me via email, okay? I have.
What time tomorrow?
Yes, you'll have until tomorrow to send it.
What time? 5 o'clock?
Until tomorrow ends, Enzo.
Okay.
Until tomorrow ends. And I have 3 persons. I have your midterm paper still. I have Nathan's paper, Marie's paper, and Kwesi's paper still. But I did tell you all that I wanted to just briefly go through the midterm exam with you all because we were supposed to do that in class today as well. So could everyone please get their midterm papers? I'm giving you all 2 minutes to get your papers.
Miss,
Yes, Kema?
remember we had a summary for you to collect?
Yes, y'all, all the homework that is outstanding, could you all just type it up and email it to me?
Okay, cool. Still give them 2 minutes. I'm going for my paper.
Yes, I've given you 2 minutes to find the paper. But all the homework, even the report, the newspaper report, where you all had to write the summary of the 80 words to me in the bottom, all the homework, please type it up and email it to me.
Miss, we going through the whole paper before class and
I want to start with that's the aim, Sanjay.
okay.
So I want us to start with the summary first, then the letter, and then the argumentative essay. The summary was done pretty well. Let me just give you all 1 more minute to return, because I know some of you all went for your papers.
Somebody watching news anyway.
Denzel. They have a paper, Denzel.
Miss,
Yes.
are we getting one of the notices in our end of term?
Well, that's if the term exam happening.
Most likely, I won't let it pass.
But
The rate how things going, we have to hope that we have time to come and do the term exam. But
we could do like an online test.
yeah, but that's the thing with you all an online test. I don't trust you all.
No, do it so like you can't cheat. Like have your camera on.
Yeah, and
For
then
everybody.
you're also sly. You open a tab with the dictionary next door, Google, and you
Yeah,
Google
we
the
can split
words.
screen.
No, but have it like one of those sites that you can lock it on.
Oh
Oh
yeah,
my
true.
God, you don't trust me at all.
It's too much
Or you
logistics.
could do the Google thing where it's like the Google Classroom where you watching everybody's screen and if somebody
Yes,
open
I
any
like
tab
that
you don't get
pattern.
it.
I think we should do the end of term exam like that, where I can see everyone's screen what they're doing. Yeah,
And
everybody
you
will
can
have
see
to
what
do
they're
that.
doing in real too.
Everybody will have to share the screen, and we'll have to do it like that. I like that idea, Sandra. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I could do my exam on the following day.
Right, so everybody is back?
Yeah, man.
Right, mute your mics before I mute you all.
Be back.
Right, so for the first section, you all had to write a summary on navigating social networks, right? One thing I wanted to point out to you all was that this summary was done pretty well. Everyone was able to highlight the 5 main points, which was good. It shows that you all really revise your topic sentences and how to look for main points. So the summary was done pretty okay. The only problem was that you all had difficulties changing the language from the original. So one thing to notice that in this passage, the writer repeated a lot of the points that was said in the beginning towards the end. So I'm going to highlight for you all what I had as some of the main points, right? So in the very first line, this was important. With the online social networking enables individuals to connect. So you see with family and friends, you don't have to say that. The main thing was that it enabled us to connect, to play games, and to express ourselves. Then the next thing that you were supposed to say is that the part of social networking, people get tangled up in social networking. That was the second main point that you all were supposed to have. Many of you all went on to say posts like Facebook, but remember this is an example. So you're not gonna say that. What you could have said was that posts reach a vast audience in a very short time. That's exactly what was the main point there, that posts, it takes seconds to reach a wide audience. The next thing was that whatever is done here in social networking is done in a permanent format. So whatever you put out there is permanent, it's very hard to erase, right? It's something that is done permanently. And the last line that was important here was, as more and more students and educators join social networks, the lines between individual rights and school rules become blurred. Meaning that you know that there's no boundaries anymore. And the main issue that was being discussed here, they were talking about the students and the educators, that when both of them are involved in social media, it's very hard to differentiate, you know, the role of the teacher as opposed to the rights of the student and the rights of the teacher. That was the main thing that was being discussed here. In the second paragraph, the first line was important when they said behavior on social networks can affect not only students, but also teachers. Because remember, they were saying that, you know, this is not something that only affects students. Yes, we think social networking has to do with young people, but it's not really the young people we're discussing. We're talking about teachers. So the next main point was that most teachers are considered role models and will be held in a high standard of professional and personal conduct. So here they're actually saying why it is that, you know, it's so hard for teachers now, because typically, teachers are role models to students and they're held in a very high professional and personal conduct. The next main thing was that teachers who seem to forget that there is no such thing as privacy online. So you see the sentence where they said, unfortunately, the news is full of stories of teachers who seem to forget that there is no such thing as privacy online. Many of you all included this, for example, but this wasn't necessary. The main point was that teachers seem to forget that there's no such thing as privacy online. So this, again, has to do with the issue of the lines being blurred. Miss will be watching you. Will your face come on? Sanjay, what is this?
Jaden said they could use a different device while they're doing the end of term, but say, and you'll be using the face cam to see them.
Oh, yes. Thanks. So The second main thing in this paragraph was, unfortunately, the news is full of stories of teachers who seem to forget that there is no such thing as privacy online. Because remember, our main issue here was how educators, the lines are blurred now because educators don't really know what is expected of them anymore. They forget that, that they are public figures, and even what they're doing in their own social networking sites, their own social profiles, is available to the public, and it could affect them in terms of jobs. The next thing that was important here was just the first two lines that says, when teachers use social networking to vent, they are no longer talking to close friends, they are potentially sharing their thoughts with a billion other people. That's all that was important. The rest was an example and an explanation as to what they mean. So the main issue here that they're talking about is that educators and teachers, they no longer have that privacy that other people have, because they are in a profession where they are role models, they are held in such high esteem, and they're being monitored. And even when they are on social media, it's as though they have to be careful as well. And that's why a lot of educators, a lot of teachers, they are not on social media for this very same reason. Because I'm sure when you went to school, at some point in time, you would have looked up your teachers on social media. So what this issue is trying to say is that, that the lines are blurred now between students and teachers, and the use of social media, because it's very easy for students to add their teachers. It's very easy for students to comment inappropriately, and even when teachers respond to the comments, it is very easy for society to say, okay, this is an inappropriate conversation that is taking place between teachers and students. So to me, the main thing that was being discussed is, how teachers no longer, they don't have privacy online. A simple thing like they talking to their friends, they making a post or a comment, is all in the public sphere. And to me, this summary was just basically talking about all the difficulties that educators have to face if they choose to be on social networking. The last paragraph here, what I want you all to notice is that a lot of things that were mentioned in the last paragraph was said already. So maybe you all would have highlighted main things here in the last paragraph, but just remember that in a summary, you cannot be repetitive. And what I've noticed is that some of the things that were said here, they were said beforehand, and you all wrote it back again. So remember, you cannot be repetitive. So the first line was very important when they said there are so many questions about the rights of both students and teachers in the world of social media. And then it says, here's where the repetition comes in. They said this line already, but now they're saying it differently. So you'll have to be careful not to underline this line again. When it says, in the meantime, teachers appear to be held to a higher standard, and they should be aware that comments they make on social networking sites make them vulnerable to charges of unprofessional conduct. They said this line in the previous paragraph, when the previous paragraph talked about when teachers are using social networking to vent, they're no longer talking to close friends. This is exactly what they have said before, but now they're just using words that is different. And this next sentence was already said too when they said the world of technology has blurred the lines of individual rights and school rules. They said that already in the last line of the introduction. So we're not going to underline this again. And then the last part here was important when it says educators need to think of their social networking as an extension of who they are in the classroom and to navigate with care as they venture into this new world. So this is the last line that tells us that this passage was geared not towards the students, but more so towards educators. Because the main the conclusion that we received from this extract was that educators need to think of their social networking as an extension of who they are in the classroom, meaning that they are being judged based on their social networking profiles. It's an extension of who they are in the classroom. So what society expects is that just as how an educator or a teacher behaves in the classroom, that's exactly how they should behave on social media. It may seem unfair because teachers would say, okay, well, we don't really have a life. We don't have time to just be us and vent and talk to our friends and families. We're being judged. But the reality is that society looks at educators because, one, they are deemed role models and they are said to be held in high self-esteem and regard to other people. And even you all as students, if you see a teacher dressed inappropriately on social media or making a comment, you're quick to judge even your parents. So the main issue here that was being discussed about navigating social networking, about navigating social networks. They were talking more so about the educators and less of the students. So if you all had these main points that I highlighted, those would have been the points that would have gotten you your full 5 marks for this section. So if you see that I just gave you a mark on a 20, it was because you all just discussed you all just wrote the summary alone and you all did not list the 5 main points. Because remember, the question asks of you to list your 5 main points first, and then you have to go on to write your actual summary. So I did say
Yes, I listed my points.
very good. Some of you all forgot to list your 5 main points, so you did not get that 5 marks. And remember, when you are listing the 5 main points, I wanted in complete sentences. You're not going, although they say 5 points, they don't want you to write a piece of a sentence, or 2 words, or 4 words. We want a complete sentence with the complete idea or thought that was being mentioned in the actual extract. Anybody have questions about the summary? The only downfall was that you all need to practice using different language in your summary.
Well, I'm not going to ask you that.
Yes,
Because you make a note on my own.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in the some other summary, I think I wrote before, I think I mentioned to use your own words or something too.
Yeah, because a lot of you all, you have the main ideas, you know. It's just that you all are not using language different from the original. So
you have to take out the topic sentence and use your own words with the topic sentence.
Yeah. So you're writing the topic sentences, but you have to try and change up the vocabulary. One line that I saw you all repeating over and over was that the lines between individual rights and school rules have become blurred. A lot of you had difficulty saying that differently. So like, although yes, you highlight the main points in the topic sentences, but I do want you all to also change the words. Yes, we already have the main point, but now your challenge is to try and use words different from the original.
Miss, excuse.
Yes.
How much marks is for the summary again?
The summary itself was out of 20, and the 5 points was out of 5 marks. So the 20 and 5 would have given you a total of 25.
Miss, so if that happened, then how would I get 21?
If what?
If it was out of 25.
It was out of 25. I gave you all your 5 marks first separate when you listed 5 points, and then the total I gave you for the summary was out of 20.
Oh, so if I add the mark that I get from the summary and the 5 main points, would that
Yeah,
be
when you add
25?
those 2 marks, that mark would have been out of 25.
Okay, so then I would get 21.
Yeah. So when you add the mark from the 5 main points and the mark from the summary itself, that mark, those 2 marks combined would have been out of 25. Right, any questions about the summary before I move on to the letter?
Miss, I think you had reiterate the word to put in the word limit, the word count.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
a lot of you all keep forgetting to put in your word count. Remember, I told you all I'm minusing 1 mark if you all forget to put your word count. You all have to put that word count in brackets at the bottom.
Okay, miss, that was my mistake too.
So if I had to put in brackets for your word count with a question mark there, I took out a mark. So y'all would have lost a mark if you didn't have the word count. Right, so moving on to the letter. This letter, if you all realize by now, is the exact letter I gave you all in class, except with a different scenario. This was a letter of complaint where you went to the electronics store and you purchased the computer. When you reached home, you saw it was defective. You had to return the item, and they asked you to write to a consumer protection group or the owner of the store in which you complained. This letter was done predominantly okay. The only issue was that you all are still having problems with the format of your letter. Just remember, this letter required you to have 2 addresses. The very first address was supposed to be your address. So you're supposed to put your address, then you skip a line and you put the date. So after you put your address to the extreme left, so your address goes to the extreme left, then you skip a line, you put your date. After your date, you skip a line, and there's where you begin to put the receiver's address. So you begin by putting the person's name. You could put their job title, then you put the name of the organization, and then you put the organization's address. So that will give you a second address. When you are finished with that, then you will put your dear whoever. You put dear sir, madam, you put the person's name. Then you skip your line, and then you put your subject. A lot of you all forgot to put your subject. What I expect to see is that I expect to see the word subject with the colon, and then you put your subject as well. When you are finished putting your subject, then I expect you all to skip a line and begin your very first paragraph. In your first paragraph, I should have seen a little introduction as to what you're going to be discussing. So many of you all, you forgot to put the name of the supermarket, the name of the electronics store. You forgot to put the date, the time of the purchase, the cost of the item. So all those fundamental information was missing from the introduction, and I wanted to see all that information in the introduction. In the body of it now is where you go on to explain that you reached home. When you reach home, you notice what was wrong with it. Many of you all forgot what is required of you in a letter of complaint. So you would have seen that I made a note saying that you all are missing some fundamental or key areas of a letter of complaint. Remember in the handout that I gave you all about a letter of complaint, on page 6, it says that you must begin by stating the purpose of the letter. Then after, you must put a detailed description of the product or service. Afterwards, you state what exactly is wrong with the product or the service. Then you briefly describe the inconvenience you have suffered. So many of you all forgot to put the inconvenience you have suffered. Then you have to indicate precisely how the situation should be corrected. So at the end, you must give a recommendation as to how the situation should be corrected. And then you ask for prompt handling of the claim. You let them know that, you know what, you want the situation to be addressed or handled as soon as possible. So if I put a note in your paper saying that you all are missing some key parts of the complaint or some fundamental components of the complaint, it is because those 6 points that I gave you all in your handout in the letter of complaint, you did not discuss all 6. And those 6 points were supposed to be discussed in that letter in that particular format. But generally the letter was done well. Just my only issue was you all need to memorize the format of the letter, please, when to skip lines, what is required of you. And I would have given you all detailed feedback and wrote and told you all what you did wrong, when to skip lines and so on, what was your error. And you all need to remember that in letter writing as well, you are required to use transitional words. Right, so you must use transitional words as well when you are writing your letters. Do you all have any questions about your letters? I tried my best to give you all detailed feedback so that you all would understand what I was trying to say.
Miss, I seen your mark courteous close on my thing. I do hope to be compensated for the inconvenience caused.
Yeah, so that courteous close I wanted you to put was what we will put is saying thanking you in advance for your time and your effort. I want you to put a line like that.
After this?
Yes.
After what I wrote?
Yeah. So thanking you in advance for your time and your effort. Or for your assistance. Okay. I want you to actually say that thank you.
I don't want to.
But you see what I mean, Denzel? I said that you must always end on a courteous close, disregarding the nature of it. If it's a complaint or whatnot, you must always be kind.
Okay.
So the complaining, that was the only thing that was missing. I just wanted you to put the thanking you in advance for your time, for your effort, for your assistance. I just wanted everybody to have that last line, the thanking you in advance.
All right, no problem.
Y'all have any more questions about the letters, or the feedback was sufficient enough for you all?
Very straightforward.
Okay, and the last question was the argumentative essay question. So first of all, remember I told you all that this little box here is for you to make your notes. And I said that this box is the box that you will be writing your plan on. So many of y'all would have seen that I wrote in pen plan with a question mark. That is because this is the box that you have to put your plan in. For CXC, they just give you enough paper to write on. They're not going to give you a whole page for you to write your whole plan on. CXC don't have money to give you all so much pages, right? So when you see in the exam paper, they put these little boxes for you. When they say you may make any notes here, this is the additional part for you to make notes on. You can't raise your hand in the exam and say, excuse me, invigilator, I need some extra paper to plan. The invigilator is not going to give you that. So throughout the paper, when they give you this little box, this is for you to write your plan. Yes, Denzel?
Miss, but what if your plan can't fit in the box?
PXC don't care. You have to write small.
Wait.
Well, usually the plan for the arguments of essay will be bigger than this box.
Oh, okay.
It'll be like a whole box, a whole page.
Right.
So just remember, whenever you see the box in the exam, the box is for you to make your notes on, right? Who's drawing up my screen? Right. So the box is for you all to make your notes on, right? So all your plans go in the box in the question paper. So the question you all had to write was about parents should consider homeschooling their children. It is the best way for them to avoid bad influences at school. So you had to write an essay either supporting or opposing this view. Many of you all forgot the format of the argumentative essay, meaning that you all forgot the format of each paragraph. I told you all that the argumentative essay is very different from the other essays in the exam. It has a strategic format, and I gave you all the handout. When I gave you all the handout with the sample essay on climate change, when I gave you all the handout with when I did the question on climate change with the global warming and stuff, on the very first page of that, I gave you all a breakdown of all the different components, all the different sentences of the paragraph, and I give you all the order in which it must be done. You see that handout? You all need to memorize that handout. However, what I put paragraph 1, and then I put the different lines, what goes first, second, third, fourth. I need you all to do that. So and we know for the introduction, the format of the introduction, let me get somebody to tell me the format of the introduction. Ravi, let's hear. What do you remember the format of the introduction to be? Ravi, are you with us? Ravi, you're replying in the chat and you're not answering my question.
Can you repeat that, please?
Yes, Ravi. I want to know what's the format of the introduction of the argumentative essay? Are you looking for your handout, Ravi?
Somewhere.
Oh, no. It's supposed to be in your head. Let me give you a start, Ravi. Your introduction must begin with a hook.
You're right. Your hook.
The hook. Ravi, are you reading my handout for me?
No.
Okay.
A brief explanation of the topic.
Sounds like you're reading my handout for me.
Actually, no, I'm not.
Okay.
And your thesis statement.
Right, so you're supposed to put a hook. If you want, you could put a definition. So in this case, the question asks about homeschooling. So it would have been nice if you all could have put a definition as to what is homeschooling. Many of you all attempted to do that and you did it pretty well. So I wanted the hook first, then the definition of homeschooling, and some background information about the topic. Meaning that you tell me homeschooling is something that is practiced on a global scale. It is rarely practiced in the Caribbean because we have free access to primary level education, but it's an area that many parents are, looking into and are interested in pursuing. So I want you to just give me a 2 or 3 lines saying something like that about homeschooling. And then after background information is where you will actually put your thesis statement. Remember the components of the thesis statement. It must have the word should in it, and you must briefly state your 3 main points.
Miss, before you move on,
Uh-huh.
I see you put should be one sentence.
Yes, you divide your thesis statement into 2 sentences.
The entire thesis statement should be one sentence.
Yes, should be 1 sentence.
So it just.
So your thesis statement should be, parents should consider homeschooling their children because, and let's say 3 points.
And then put commas between the 3
Yes,
points.
and commas between the 3 points.
So my mistake here was putting a full stop. Okay.
Good. So that was the introduction, and the body paragraphs, they have the same format. You must have your topic sentence. Remember, your topic sentences begin with a transitional word, and your topic sentence must just have the topic in it. I don't want to see you begin your topic sentence and then you have the word because, and then you continue explaining what you mean. No, that's for the second sentence. So for the 3 body paragraphs, you must begin with your transitional word and your topic sentence. The next sentence is where you explain your topic sentence. After you explain what you mean by the point you've mentioned, then you put your credible source. The credible source, I want you to say, according to a newspaper article by the Trinidad and Tobago Guardian, credible sources. You know, like now how we have the coronavirus and you have to listen to credible authorized sources and not what your neighbor's saying and your friend's saying. Right. The arguments of essays, same thing, only credible, reputable sources you're listening to. So which make references to books, newspaper articles, a documentary, a minister, a prime minister, a president, the leader of an organization. Reputable, credible sources and not just anybody. After you put your credible source, you all kept forgetting to put your 1 line to close off the sentence, the paragraph. So 1 line that just summarizes what the paragraph was about. That's what I wanted as the closure of the body paragraphs. For the conclusion, the same thing. You have to begin with your transitional word. You restate your point of view. And then I want you to state your 3 main points in 3 different sentences. Many of you all kept forgetting the 3 different sentences part, but I wanted you to list it in 3 different sentences. And then when you're closing, just end with a line that would leave an impact on the reader. That's it. So from this midterm exam, I just saw that you all need to just review the structure and the format of the different components of the argumentative essay, the letter, and the summary. So please use this time to do your revision, even practice. So I know that we have reached after 8 o'clock and we have a minute and some seconds left. So let me just give you all my closing remarks. So I'll be sending you all your homework. I'll have to type it up and I'll send your homework to you either tonight or in the morning. All homework from now on must be typed on a Microsoft Word document and it must be emailed to me. Not sent via WhatsApp, but it must be emailed to me. Feel free to do any additional work, any past papers, summary, multiple choice papers, argumentative essays and whatnot, and email it to me on a Microsoft Word document. All work from now on will be emailed. The homework that was due today, please type it up and email it to me. Any questions? No questions?
No.
Are we good?
I think we're good there, miss.
Okay, very good. So I will communicate with you all on the WhatsApp group with regards to your homework, right?
Okay.
You all have a great night and stay indoors.